change that. You're the one. Now you can change your telephone number, and you can change your address too. But you can't stop me from loving you. No, you can't change that. 'Cause you're the only one I love, and you can't change that. You're the one I love. You're the only one I need, and you can't change that. I need you, baby. You're the only one I love, and you can't change that. You may change a dollar bill,
Folks, can you hear me okay? We're just a couple minutes away. Hang tough, thank you. Good evening, folks. Welcome to the reconvening of our special town meeting that was adjourned last night and is now continuing here. I will shorten my remarks, my opening remarks, considerably as a result of that, but I do want to remind you of a couple things. We have a quorum of over 100 here. And we have tonight working the electronic clicker devices that you were issued when you walked in. So before we get to the rest of the warrant, I would like to yield the podium to our town clerk, Jim Haggerty, who will explain how they work. For those of you that weren't here in the spring, how they work. We'll demonstrate it. We'll do a couple of mock questions so you can actually push the button and see what comes up. Should just take a couple of minutes. So, Jim?
Okay, that's my turn on mic A.
You're not on.
Mic A?
There
Thank
you
you.
go.
Hey, folks, when you look at your clickers for a second, your screen may be blank. If you press either 1 or 2 on it, the screen should come live. If you press number 1, you're going to see the letter A. And at the top of the screen, you're going to see what looks like a kind of a tree on the left. That indicates you're talking to the receiver. So if you press 2, it'll go to B. The important thing you're seeing right now is that when you press a button, if you see a letter, it means we're not voting. The clickers only work when the moderator opens the voting. When the moderator does open the votes, Amy, would you flip that light? Turn it green. We're going to turn that light to green. And I'm going to press a button on the screen so that when he'll say the voting is open, and then when you press your buttons in a minute, or in 30 seconds when I stop talking, you'll see when you press the button, it's going to press, it'll say number 1 instead of A. While the voting is open, you can change your mind as many times you like. You can go back and forth between a vote A and B, yes or no, how many times you want. And the system will record the last vote that you have. You have to be in a seat per the rules here, and this will only work inside the room. So if you leave the room, if you decide to go home, please turn the clicker in. Don't leave it with anybody else. If you see that somebody has two clickers, if somebody goes to the bathroom and they leave their click with somebody else, you can't vote twice. Just please raise your hand and we'll address that issue. If the only way these things fail, frankly, is if somebody steps on them. If that happens, I hope I didn't put the curse on us, but anyway, if one breaks, give us a call. We'll be happy to swap it out and go from there. All right, so I'm going to open up a question here.
Can everybody see the green light up here on the right?
Okay, so what's going to happen in a second, I'm going to pop a question that's going to pop up on the main screen right here. And let's get this guy up. This is the first time, so I got to do this here. Oh, that is a young girl, my granddaughter, reading a book. Actually, it's an upside-down book, in case somebody noticed there. So the first question, is, was Southborough founded in 1726? And I'm going to open up the voting here. Voting is open, so please hit your clicker, and you'll see when you press a button, it'll show 1, and it shows OK. The OK, if you voted yes, OK means your vote is it's synced up here. If I change my mind and vote 2, I'd go for that, okay? So how much time do you want to give to the voting poll typically?
20 seconds, and we've got 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Closing the voting.
Now, just to clarify, if somebody tries to vote after it's closed, the clicker won't work. So that's very important. I mean, 20 seconds is a long time. Jim talked through most of it. You'll have plenty of time, and I'll give you that 5-second warning. And I'll give you plenty of warning before we open it, so you can think about what you're wanting to do.
They mean nothing. You can't use them at all.
No, the buttons that are covered in black, don't worry about. You just have a green and a red, a yes or a no.
Okay, so I'm going to go back up to that one. Was Southborough founded in... I didn't press open the voting. I'm sorry. Let's do it again. Everybody press the button.
That's all right. That's why we do it. All right, Jim, please open the voting.
Okay.
Five seconds. 2, 1, close.
Well, folks, I have to go back to voting school because it's not working. I'm sorry. All right, I'm going back to voting school. I apologize, folks. We're not going to.
Okay. All right. All right. That's what test runs are for. So everybody, hang on to your clickers. Somebody will be around to pick them up. We will not have them again tonight. With any luck, that's okay. Okay. As a reminder, your warrant from last night and obviously tonight, same town meeting, is this traffic yellow warrant that if you came in today, there were some on the tables outside and you could have picked one up. We completed Articles 1 through 10 yesterday and 13, because 13 was part of the consent agenda. So when we start, we will start at Article 11. In keeping with our longstanding town practice, the scheduled end of this session is 11 p.m. Or if the article once the article under consideration at 11 p.m. is completed, or if a quorum is called and fails, or as happened last night, a motion for adjournment is passed by majority. Our bylaw requires me to define the bounds of the hall. Tonight, we're just in this auditorium. There is no cafeteria overflow tonight. So the seats and the aisles between the seats are all part of the hall. Everything in front of the back wall is our hall tonight. And as a reminder, everything is being live streamed by iMedia. All right, I talked long enough. Jim thinks he's got it, so we're going to go back to testing the clickers. Did they already turn them in? Forget it. Forget it. It's all right. It's all right. It's all right. So the bounds of the hall, the seats, the aisles, everything has to be in front of that back wall. The alcove where the AV guys are, that's not part of the hall. You got to be in front to vote. Okay. Final reminder before we get going is is to keep in mind that town meeting is the legislative branch of our town government. Select board is the executive, town meeting is the legislature. You are town government tonight. You're not speaking to the town government. In your speeches, your opinions, your votes, your questions, et cetera, you are town government tonight. That's important to understand because we impose our own standards of time and rules and so forth on ourselves through our bylaw, Chapter 41. As worked very, very well yesterday, articles will come to the floor via a motion, and whoever moves an article and explains it will have 5 minutes to do so. Anybody who speaks subsequent to that will have 3 minutes. Those time frames work very well. They're much longer than they seem. I think with that, we are ready to go. I have examined the call of this session of the town meeting, the receipt of the officers, return of the mailing for the posting, and the return of the mailing. Normally, I must read each article in its entirety before it gets moved to the floor, but we can waive that requirement if a motion is made to dispense with that. Do I have a motion to dispense with the reading of each article? By me. I heard so moved, second, and all in favor. Thank you. I will dispense with the reading, and we will move directly to Article 11. Mr. Hamilton.
Mr. Moderator, I move Article 11 as printed in the warrant.
Okay, does that receive a second? All right, go ahead, Mr. Hamilton.
Yes, this article restructures the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. In fact, the Board of Trustees of the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. And there are multiple reasons to do this. The first one is that with the best of intentions, the Select Board was essentially made the 5 of the 7 seats in the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. This has not proven to be particularly workable. The Select Board is pretty busy, and what we want to do is restructure this so that we can bring people into the Affordable Housing Trust Fund that have the time and the inclination to do the substantial work that's required to further the Affordable Housing Trust, in particular to investigate properties and programs that the trust might fund. The Select Board is, quite frankly, very, very busy. The typical Select Board member puts in 5 to 15 hours a week on a wide variety of things and simply does not have the time, and in many cases, the interest or inclination to work in this particular area. This bylaw requests that at least 2 of the 5 members should have significant experience in affordable housing, construction, development, social work, and the likes. And so that is the first reason to do this. The second reason has to do with the fact that there was a significant administrative error that was made when we adopted the law 20 years ago, and this cleans up that significant error that then puts a cloud over the actions of the trust fund. So those are the 2 principal reasons. This is going to go along with Article 12, which eliminates SHOPC. So the second goal, or the third goal, is to essentially merge the functions of SHOPC with the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. Right now we have 2 committees, 2 boards that have overlapping responsibilities, and it made more sense, given our challenges in staffing, to simply merge the 2 and bring the people who have the experience together with the resources necessary to promote affordable housing in our community.
All right, thank you very much. Any comment or question regarding Article 11? Yes.
Question, Mr. Moderator. Are we talking about Article 12 as well?
Oh, let me make a suggestion to the hall. Article 11, ratify, for lack of a better word, as Mr. Hamilton explained, it ratifies the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. Article 12 eliminates SHOP-C as an overlapping, I'll say, committee. I don't have an opinion on this. I'm just trying to frame it up for you. So as we go through our discussion of Article 11 and potentially amendments to it, you should probably keep in the back of your mind that the very next article is a proposal to eliminate SHOP-C. Depending on how that article turns out, it may affect the ultimate impact of Article 11. I hope I didn't confuse people even more. Does everybody understand what I'm getting at here? Looks okay. All right. So yes, ma'am. Yes, we are thinking about Article 12 as we discuss Article 11.
Mr. Moderator, I have several motions on this. Do you want them individually with each page, or do you want them all at once?
You said motions. Do you mean you want to amend?
I'm going to amend it. I'm sorry. Several amendments.
Several amendments. Yeah, I think we should take them one at a time. I mean, taking them all at once would be very confusing. Do you want to put a motion on the floor to amend Article 11?
Bonnie Faniff, 179 Middle Road. I move to amend the main motion under 6-13 establishment. Do you want me to read the whole thing or what I've inserted?
No, I just want you to read what your amendment consists of.
All right, if you go down to, sorry to hold up the hall. The establishment, it shall consist of 5 members appointed by the Select Board for terms of 2 years. 1 member shall be a member of the Select Board as required by law. 1 member of the Southborough Housing Opportunity Partnership, Committee SHOP-C. The other, strike 4. 3 members shall be at large.
Just that one.
Just that.
Okay. So Ms. Faniff has read her motion to amend. Does it receive a second? All right, Ms. Faniff, do you want to explain this?
Yes, I think I served on SHOP-C. There's several members in the hall and a Board of Selectmen as well. SHOP-C was in place for many years, and yes, there are duplications between the committees, but SHOP-C was more of a community venture with the town planner and members of the town hall. We met with the citizens, we'd go to sites, we'd talk with the developers, with the citizens, and we'd write a summary of what the citizens would like, submit it to the planning board, ZBA as well on behalf of SHOP-C. Whereas we were advocates for affordable housing.
Vanessa, is that you guys down there? Who's got this? Can we zoom in on the amendment we're talking about? Even more, please, if you can. Even more. Let's keep going.
It's under
There we are.
6-13.
So, all right. So what's on the screen is the amendment on the floor. Ms. Faniff, I'm sorry. Were you done?
No, you're on 6-14, I think.
I'm sorry. What? I can't hear her.
I can't see what you have on the board.
It's 6:13, Bonnie.
All right. So were you done speaking to this amendment?
Yes, that's my
Okay.
purpose for adding SHOP-C
Okay.
back.
Sir, are you wanting to speak on this amendment?
No, I want to speak on the articles.
Okay. On the amendment or on the article itself?
Article itself.
Okay. Does anybody want to speak on Ms. Faniff's amendment? Okay, one here and one here. Go right ahead, sir.
Matt Probst, 31 Woodland Road. A question about the amendment. Amendment mentions that 1 member of the Southborough Housing Opportunity Partnership Committee, SHOP-C, but subsequently, we're talking about elimination of SHOP-C. So how would that work if we eliminate SHOP-C?
We wouldn't if we included it here.
Okay, thank you.
Hold on, I'm going to have town council speak to that question. How would this work if we eliminated Shopsy in Article 12?
Well, it would leave us with one less member, a board of only 4 members that still had a quorum of 3 and still would require 3 votes. So it would leave a pretty gaping hole in the general day-to-day functioning of the committee, because we couldn't just substitute it. There are some committees like the Community Preservation Committee where if there's an entity that ceases to exist, you can replace them with a similar committee member. There's no opportunity to do that. So you'd be removing 20% of the kind of deliberative power that the committee would otherwise have. So it would raise some practical issues under the open meeting law and under general governance, for sure.
All right, thank you. Right down here, Mike A.
Mimi Luttrell, 19 Oregon Road. I just have a question on the amendment that was on the screen. It had 1 member of the planning board and 1 member of Shopsy, which is 2 amendments to what's
I think it
in
said
the-
select board.
No.
Can we put it up? Put it back up?
Oh, yeah. So 1 member should be a member of the planning board as designated by the planning board?
That's not mine.
So I guess there are 2 amendments that are together in one.
This is the incorrect amendment.
Okay. No, it's not incorrect. It's 2 amendments combined. I'm sorry.
This is someone else's amendment.
The entirety is someone else's? Yes, yes. Hold on a second, folks. Sorry. Ms. Faniff's amendment, rather than having 4 at-large members, she wants to substitute a member of Shopsy for one of the at-large members. Does that sum it up, Ms. Faniff?
Yes, it does.
Okay. Anybody else want to speak to that amendment?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Let's start over here, please, and then we'll go back to the back.
Sam Stivers, 7 Presidential Drive, member of the Select Board. I guess I'm troubled by the process here. We've been talking about this for some time. We had a committee that looked at this. This is important language, and to do this kind of exercise on the floor at town meeting, where clearly there's a lot of back and forth on this already, seems to me to be a recipe for trouble, given that it's worthy of careful consideration, which this is the first time I've seen this language. And I think that it's something that deserves a lot closer study before we start amending in this way. So I'm not comfortable with any of these amendments, particularly this one to start with. Thank you.
All right, thank you. In the back?
So Kathy Cook, Chair of the Select Board. So to add on to Mr. Stivers, the committee included 2 people from the Select Board, 2 people from Shopsy, Mr. Mance and Mr. Desmond, and Lisa Braccio from both Planning Board and CPC. So we had everybody represented. The article is a result of their recommendation, was fully discussed, and I believe state law clearly states that the Select Board is the sole appointing authority of all members, and that one Select Board person has to be on it, which is what the proposed article says. So I'm not sure why we're talking about any other one being on this, being a trustee, given what state law says.
I don't think this amendment implicates state law. This amendment still has Select Board making all the appointments.
It says it's got to be, but it requires a Shopsy member.
It's just like CPC. You appoint, until yesterday, you appoint even though they're recommended. Select Board still appoints all 5 here. Go to one mic, please. All right. Yes.
Thanks, Bonnie. Beth Rosenblum, 5 Strawberry Hill Road. I used to be involved in stuff in town, not at all anymore, so I don't have a cat or a dog in this. I'm just a little confused. In the warrant on page 21, describing this article, it says, it sounds like this is kind of like a technical thing to ratify something that was already approved by town meeting. So we're just taking the exact language of something from 2005 because we need to dot some i's and cross some t's and make it official. And the last line of the summary on page 21 says, the bylaw proposed is the same language that was approved in 2005 and comports with state law and amends the composition of the board. So my question is, if we amend it as proposed, and there are further amendments coming, I know from other work I did in town, all of these things have to be, that are in the warrant, get reviewed by town council prior to make sure the representations that are made are accurate. Has town council reviewed the amendment that's proposed? And is that description still apt if we amend it? With the amendment, would this comport with state law? Has anybody looked at that until 3 minutes ago? Thank you. Sorry that was so long.
That's all right. Town council's right here, and he's going to speak to that.
Thank you. Really good question, really good point. So I'll give a little bit of the historical context here, and then I'll answer your specific question. In this, as it does say in the summary, in 2005, when the town adopted the Affordable Housing Trust Fund statute, which allows the town to swiftly and effectively manage money and take advantage of market opportunity to develop affordable housing. That was done properly at the time. The town did 2 things. It accepted the statute and it passed a bylaw. What happened after that wasn't quite clear on the bylaw side. On the acceptance of the statute side, the town did everything it was supposed to do by adopting a trust, recording it, acting in accordance with that trust. Normally, a bylaw will go to the Attorney General's office, and then they will approve it and send it back. For reasons unbeknownst to any of us, and we've dug around in this with the AG's office, and our town clerk has as well, there is a dead end in terms of understanding whether or not it ever got to the AG's office or not. In any event, just to ratify what the town vote was back then, and to allow the Affordable Housing Trust, which exists to this day, to more easily and effectively do their work, we needed to ratify that action. Along the way, it was determined by the Select Board, which has been serving as the 5 of the 7 members of the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, that there might be more efficiency and more diversity of thought if we open up the Affordable Housing Trust Fund committee members to other folks through these at-large positions. So that was the only change is really with respect to the composition. Previously it was, and as it exists today, 5 members of the Select Board and 2 at-large trustees. As to the amendment and your specific question, I saw it at 5 of 7 today for the first time. I've reviewed all of the provisions. There are several other amendments. This one is legal. It would not upset the apple cart. A number of the other ones are of some legal concern to me, which I would get into if those motions were made. As Mr. Stivers said, there's been a lot of work thinking about this, so we've made every effort to kind of jump on this amendment and make sure we understood what it was for. This particular one, I don't have a legal quarrel with the exception of the weird kind of conflict with the next bylaw, which could render this somewhat problematic if the next article passed.
Thank you. I don't want to get too metaphysical, but I'm still confused. If we need to pass the original motion as proposed to bring something into being, how can we amend it before it's even brought into being? There isn't a bylaw on the books in reality that we can debate and amend.
So from a parliamentary perspective, they're not amending an existing bylaw. They're amending the motion on the floor, which is to pass a bylaw with certain terms. So Ms. Faniff's amendment isn't a standalone modification to something that exists. It's a modification to the proposal that's before the body tonight to ratify the action and create a bylaw that, for whatever reason, didn't officially come into existence in 2005.
I'm still confused, but I don't want to, the Yiddish expression is dreh your kepi, so I'm going to sit down and let everybody sort this out, each person for themselves, but thank you.
Perfectly good explanation.
Mr. Moderator,
Yes?
if I could just make some clarifications here. I appreciate town council's opinion and also Mr. Hamilton's. I did attempt to attend a meeting. I actually stayed at the town hall. After a meeting that was posted, it was canceled. It was not listed on the website. There was a second one, and that was canceled as well. Yes, I came here at 6 o'clock this evening and saw that the town clerk received it and a member of the Board of Selectmen. So I apologize that it's late, but if there's no meetings, I couldn't have presented it earlier.
All right, thank you. So now, on this amendment.
Yep, on the amendment.
Now on the amendment?
Yep, correct.
All right, go ahead.
Yeah, so Doug Mann's chair of the current SHOP-C committee, been on it for about 2 years. So myself and Paul Desmond were on the working committee, which did vote unanimously in favor of this amendment. Also, I think it is relevant to know that SHOP-C did vote on the next amendment, 3-0, support of getting rid of SHOPSI and merging it with the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. I think that's important for people to know as part of this amendment. I would not be in favor of this amendment, given all the work that's been done on it to date.
All right, thank you. Somebody walked away. So, right, same microphone.
James Eastland, 31 Wildwood. Given the interactions between this article and the proposed amendment to it and Article 12, is it possible within the structure of town meeting to address Article 12 first? That would remove some of the uncertainty about what happens if on this amendment.
Yeah, I mean, it is possible to sort of suspend our discussion of 11 and bring 12 forward.
I'm comfortable with that.
And apparently Ms. Vaniff is comfortable with that.
No, I mean, I'll set aside.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Tim Martell, 7 Bantry Road, member of advisory. Mr. Moderator, could I ask that the language be brought back up on the screen, please?
Yes, sure. Can we get the amendment back? There we go.
So I noticed that by the select board has been stricken, and 1 member of the SHOPSI and the other 3 members shall be at large, and nowhere does it say who's doing the appointing.
Yeah, I'm going. It's a fair point, but I want to make sure we just don't have a Scrivener's error on the screen.
I don't think she meant to strike by the select board.
No, that strike, I don't think that strike belongs in there, Vanessa. Do we take it out? All right, Mr. Martell, thank you. Back here, please.
John Bottolini, 4 Wyeth Circle. I've got a question. If this supposedly fell through the cracks and there's no record of it from 2005, it says here that it was adopted, but are you positive that it was adopted? I mean, it seems to me that if there's no record of it, it might have gotten turned down in 2005. Do we have the vote or anything?
Yeah, no, I think it's a 2-step process. So town meeting adopts a bylaw, then it goes to the AG for approval. The first part of that definitely happened.
All right, you're 100% sure. Okay.
The second part didn't happen.
So it got approved
we can't confirm that the second part happened.
But you confirmed that it got voted positive at town?
Yes.
All right, that's all I wanted.
Yes. Mr. Hamilton, do you want to speak to the amendment? All right, over here.
Yes, Andrew Dennington, Vice Chair of the Select Board, and I was also on the working group that put forward Articles 11 and 12. Just to make it very clear why we support the articles that are in the warrant and do not support the amendment here is we're trying to do something very simple. Take 2 committees which had very similar mission statements and put them into one committee that's more efficient and effective. So the mission statement of the Affordable Housing Trust Fund is to provide for the creation and preservation of affordable housing for the benefit of low and moderate income households and for the funding of community housing. And the SHOPSI purpose in the bylaw is almost identical. The purpose of SHOPSI is to study, promote, and act as facilitators to create affordable housing. So we just don't think it's efficient to have 2 committees that basically are looking to do the same thing. And one of the things that we had a consensus on in our working group was that the Westborough Affordable Housing Trust Fund Committee could be a model. You look at their website, they've got a nice list of specific projects that they're working on. They seem to be working pretty well. And they have the simple structure that's proposed in this article, which is 1 select board member, because that's required by law, and then the rest of the appointments are just at-large appointments. And we put in our bylaw, we'd like to, it's aspirational language, we'd like to have at least 2 members on the committee that have the experience in construction, real estate development, social services, affordable housing, things like that. So that's why we hope that the town meeting will vote to support both articles without any amendments. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Any other comment or question on the amendment to Article 11? All right, this requires a majority vote. All those in favor of the amendment to Article 11, please raise your hands. All opposed? All right, the amendment fails. We're back to the main motion on Article 11. Yes.
On number 614, purpose. In your yellow handout, after the work of following powers, the words, but a city or town may by ordinance or by law omit or modify any of these powers and may grant to the board additional powers consistent with this section.
But it makes no sense.
And the reason I put this forward is that if it needs to be amended in the future, it can be amended at at a town meeting.
Does that amendment receive a second? All right. Town council will speak to the impact of this amendment.
There's no question that any bylaw is amendable within the bounds of law by this body, but you don't need this language. If this language didn't exist, that same premise would be true. So, and we don't have ordinances, we have bylaws, so that part of it isn't appropriate, but this is really just a recitation of state laws that exist. So this language could go in, but it wouldn't change the fact that this body would have to approve any amendment and has the power in any subsequent town meeting to approve an amendment as well. So I'm not suggesting that it's necessarily illegal on its face, although I'd remove certain of its language in terms of referencing ordinances, but it's certainly not necessary to achieve your purpose of making sure that this body can amend this, because that is true with this bylaw as well as every single other bylaw that exists in the Southborough Town Code.
Would it have to be returned to the Attorney General's office without that language?
Every single amendment to a bylaw has to be approved by the Attorney General.
This is taken right out of other communities that have it.
It's, all I'm saying is it's unnecessary and duplicative of state law.
Okay.
Any comment or question on this amendment, the proposed amendment? All right, this requires a majority vote. All those in favor, please raise your hands. All opposed? All right, that amendment fails. We're back to the main motion on Article 11.
Number 1, if you go down to where it says, or bylaw, or any other ordinance or bylaw, including, then I added the motion, including money from Chapter 40B, which is your CPC funds, provided, however, that any money received from Chapter 44B shall be used exclusively for community housing and shall remain subject to all rules, regulation, and limitation of that chapter when expended by the trust, and such funds shall be accounted for separately by the trust, and provide further that at the end of each fiscal year, the trust shall ensure that all expenditures of the funds received from said Chapter 44B are reported to the Community Preservation Committee of the city or town for inclusion in the Community Preservation Initiative Report, Form CP-3, to the Department of Revenue.
Does that motion receive a second? All right. Ms. Faniff?
I put that in there. It's common practice. It's actually in the chapter. And the reason I did that, we're having a trust, we're going to approve a trust this evening. They could have access to $1 million, and the reporting is required with CPC funds. This is not unusual.
All right, Town Council?
This is somewhat similar to the last one, and this is a recitation of a requirement that already exists. Just for a little context, under the Community Preservation Act, under a specific paragraph of Section 5 of that act, the town meeting can vote and has voted here to extend community preservation monies for use by the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. And these requirements are requirements of law. So whether or not this language is in there, the Affordable Housing Trust Fund trustees still have to follow it. My other comment here is that I would be reluctant as council to recommend inclusion of reference to specific forms, because forms have a way of changing, as well as some of the procedures here in the last part of the amendment. And if that form did change, it's right now listed as CP3. If they changed it to CP2, we have a problem with our bylaw. So this is why, as town council, we recommend sometimes not being as specific as the statutes otherwise require, because we have to do what those statutes and regulations require anyway. But if we want to change something to a bylaw, we have to wait for town meeting and then Attorney General approval to do that. So, so those two comments with respect to my concerns on this particular amendment.
I'll amend this motion to remove Form CP-3, since things might change. They always change. But this language is in the chapter.
Ms. Faniff has moved to amend her amendment. Does that receive a second? All right. So, yeah, we'll have to get that in writing. Yes.
Do you know what chapter 44B is?
Mr. Moderator?
Moderator, I have a point of information.
Who's speaking? Do you have a point of order?
Information.
Well, honestly, I don't know what that is. Do you have a question? I'm happy to
I
hear
have a
it.
question, yeah. What's chapter 44B?
I don't have it memorized, but council does. It's the Community Preservation Act.
Which means the state gives us a bunch of money, or?
It hasn't been a bunch for a long time.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Mr. Moderator, there's a typo in this bylaw. Under section 6-14, under number 1, the third sentence, the fourth word in. I have no idea what that is. It's number 1, action. It's also incorrect in the original document. That needs to be corrected. Well, it's not in the original document. It's not correct in the original document either. I think we need to do that tonight.
I don't know. Hold on. Hold on, please. Ms. Faniff, are you ready to make, is your motion submitted?
I already did.
All right. Go ahead. We'll deal with the typo if there is one in a second. Ms. Faniff, speak to your motion. Your second amendment.
It's
Your amendment to your amendment.
It's to remove the words Form CP-3, the last sentence.
Okay, so you're fixing what council identified as the possibility we'd have to come back and correct things if okay. Any other comment or question on this amendment on the floor? All right, so our first vote is whether to adopt the corrective CP3 to be deleted. All those in favor, majority vote, all those in favor? All opposed? Don't you dare. All in favor? All opposed? We're going to count this. Oh, yeah. No, Jim, is it faster to hand the clickers back out or get tellers? We gotta count. It'll be faster to count this manually than hand clickers back out. So the clerk will take care of that. Hang tight.
Two sets of tellers.
I saw it when it was up on the screen. It was CO number 1. I think it was definitely on the screen. I did not see it in the warrant.
We're going to count in just a minute, but can somebody explain, whoever identified a typographical error, can we just come back to the mic and clarify, please?
Mr. Moderator, if I may? It's on your question.
On the typographical error?
Yes.
I'm going to let the lady who identified it tell me. Thank you, though.
Okay, under section for purpose 6-14,
Yeah,
number 1,
yeah.
to accept and receive property, whether real or personal, by gift, grant, device, or transfer from any person, firm, corporation, or other public or private entity, including without limitation, grants of funds or other property tendered to the trust in, it should be connection, but it's COM.
I see it.
That needs to be fixed in the bylaw.
Yeah, look,
That's also in the original.
I'll take a, that's in the original, I understand. I'll take a friendly, a poll of the floor to accept the correction to the typo before we get to our vote on Ms. Fannin's amendment to her amendment.
Doesn't matter.
All right, hold on, tellers. This is what we call a friendly amendment. Are we all, show of hands, are we okay with the typo being corrected? Two N's instead of M1. Thank you to whoever pointed that out. My eyes are terrible.
Mr. Moderator, can I ask a question?
I think we're ready to count, so hold on, please.
So it's regarding this Karen Muggeridge, 15 Parmenter Road. Do I understand it correctly, or if I understand it correctly, from what town council said, there's really no controversial issue to remove Form CP3? It would avoid
I'm sorry, I'm going to interrupt
confusion.
you. It was a close enough vote that we have to count it. So let's do that.
But you can remove that and then vote it down on the original amendment that's not amended to remove this, correct?
Well, we may or may not remove it.
Okay.
Yep. All right. Jim, we ready? Yes. All right. We're going to do this just by show of hands. You can keep your seats, but just raise your hands high. Show your yellow wristband. All in favor of the amendment, please raise your hand, and the tellers will be expeditious. We got two sets going up each aisle. keep your hand up until you're sure you've been counted. That once you're sure the tellers have counted you, you could put your hand down. Anybody with their hand still up can put it down. All opposed to the amendment, please raise your hands. All opposed. And then, you know. just asked why nobody else is getting a chance. Every time I go back to the main motion, nobody's at the line. I'll clarify that. Okay, on the amendment to remove CP3 from the amended language, the motion carries yes 64, no 31. All right, we're back to Ms. Faniff's original amendment, not the first one she's offered. I think we're on the third one she's offered. Comment or question about the amendment? No. All right, so it requires a majority vote. All those in favor? All opposed? Okay, the amendment fails. Now we're back to the main motion.
Mr. Moderator, I move the question.
On the main motion?
Yes.
Okay. So you're moving Article 11 at this point?
Yes.
Yes. All right, a motion to move the question cuts off all debate. Second. And it requires a second and a two-thirds vote. And if we approve that, then we vote on Article 11. So this is just to stop talking. All those
About the whole article?
Pardon?
You're talking to stop talking about the whole article?
Correct. Yes, we're back on the main motion.
All right, if I may make a statement then, before this meeting even started, I spoke with Mr.
Bonnie, the motion to move the question is not debatable. I'm sorry.
The question,
The question is, we're on the main motion on Article 11.
you're doing a disservice.
All right. All in favor of the motion to move the question, please raise your hands. All opposed? All in favor? All opposed? We're going to count that too. Tellers, please come back up. There's a clear majority, but it needs to be two-thirds. All in favor of the motion to move the question, please raise your hands and keep them up. All right, you can lower your hands. All those opposed to the motion to move the question, please raise your hands. Please raise your hands, keep them up.
Keep your hand down.
This is why people don't come to town meeting. Oops.
And that's it. No, no, it's not. That is not it yet. No, I'm not tripping. I don't see any more hands.
I don't think they've changed much. name. Oh, so you've got a relation up here as well? Yeah, no, I'm on Miles Way. Ah, okay.
All right, folks, that motion required a two-thirds majority. 71 yes, 32 no, motion carries. We are now back to, and if you want to know the math, it's 68.9%. We're back to now the main motion on the floor, which is Mr. Hamilton's motion on Article 11. Any further comment or question on Article? Oh, you're right. It's been so long. You're right. He's right. Yes, we did. I'm sorry. We move immediately to a vote on Article 11, and it requires a majority vote. All those in favor of Article 11, please raise your hands. All those opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Article 12, Mr. Dennington.
Mr. Moderator, I move the article as printed in the warrant.
Does it receive a second? All right, Mr. Dennington.
So we pretty much covered a lot of the grounds for Article 12 already in the discussion about Article 11. Article 12 seeks to abolish SHOPC because by passing Article 11, the new Affordable Housing Trust Fund Committee, we don't think there's a need for both committees anymore. I described the mission statements of the two organizations, and so the Select Board asked for a yes vote because we want to have one consolidated committee that's more efficient and effective rather than keeping both of them around.
All right, thank you. Any comment or question regarding Article 12? Yes.
Tim Litt, 148 Woodland Road. I note that in Article 10, we have SHOPC making an appointment to CPC. If we eliminate SHOPC, which I think is the right thing to do, someone needs to go back and deal with that.
The original CPC bylaw permits the select board to identify a successor agency in the event that a committee no longer exists.
Sir, are you going to a mic?
Yeah.
Okay, you're next.
Just really quickly, again, Doug Mans, Chair of SHOPSI. Again, SHOPSI
Wait.
voted in favor.
Wait. Name and address, please.
Doug Mans, 3 Killam Farm Lane.
Go ahead.
So again, Chair of SHOPSI. SHOPSI again voted 3-0 with 1 abstention in favor of removal of SHOPSI and combining with the Affordable Housing Trust Fund.
Thank you. Other comments, questions? All right, this requires a majority vote. All those in favor, please raise your hands. All opposed? Motion carries. As a reminder, Article 13 was disposed of in the first session yesterday on the consent list. So we move to Article 14. Mr. Dennington. Mr. Dennington, I'm going to have you stand up so the camera can get you better.
Okay. Mr. Moderator, I move the article as printed in the warrant.
So receive a second?
Second.
All right, Mr. Dennington, go ahead.
Yes, so what Article 14 is seeking to do, we're asking town meeting for the funding to make the current 20-hour part-time economic development coordinator position into a full-time 40-hour position. And we've had a lot of discussion over this for the last, I would say, 3 budget cycles. We think this is, has been a long time coming, that it's overdue. As pretty much everyone knows, we have a problem. We have an eroding commercial tax base, and that's contributing to pressure on residential property taxes. So to improve the overall, economic health of the town, we want to attract and retain more businesses and better businesses, particularly along Route 9. And we've been going along with kind of a half-measure way of dealing with this, of having a part-time economic development coordinator position. We know a lot of our surrounding communities have full-time positions that are devoted just to this. We think we're at a competitive disadvantage. I think there's a lot that can be done in terms of having one person who's responsible for regular outreach to businesses in town, staying in touch with them, connecting them with local resources to help their businesses stay and thrive and grow, and also looking out for economic development grants that can address some of our longer-term challenges. In particular, we've been working on, as a next priority, looking at zoning on Route 9. What's a way we could look at Route 9 zoning in a way that would kind of look towards the future, get away from just these kind of empty office buildings. We're pleased that in the last, we haven't been able to come to a consensus with advisory for this for a couple budget cycles, but this year we did find a consensus, and there is unanimous support for both groups for it. And so the amount of funding we're asking for is in the warrant, $27,929, and it would be from a transfer from the overlay reserve, so there would not be a direct impact on the tax rate for fiscal year 2025. So we ask for the Hall's support for Article 14. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Comment or question on Article 14?
Question, Mr. Moderator?
Yes.
Bonnie Faniff, 179 Middle Road. I understand the process here. I've been supportive of it. But this is just for the 6-month from January to June, the increase, correct? The funds?
Yes.
Could anybody tell us what the salary of that position would be, and are the benefits included in this number? Only because next year they're going to be asking why there's such a big
Yeah.
jump.
So Bonnie, I would have to go look it up in the computer. I don't have it right now, but you'd kind of. Yeah, so the benefits are included in Article 14, but you're right, Article 14, it only includes the funding for the second half of this fiscal year, but the exact salary and benefits position, I don't have it with me right now. I need to go back and look at it. But that would be in the budget if town meeting approves it, then I presume we'd put it in the budget for fiscal year '26 going forward.
Well, I don't want to create a hardship for an employee if that doesn't happen, so it'd be nice to know what that number is.
All right, thank you. Right down here. Microphone A.
Yes, I think we have a couple slides put up.
Name and address, please.
For Michael Nordstrom, 14 Meeting House Lane.
Who's got a couple slides?
EDC.
All right.
Okay, great, thank you. So, yeah, my name is Michael Nordstrom. I'm the EDC coordinator, established a couple months ago. I've been with the Economic Development Committee since early of 2023. Just want to give you a little bit more context on what we're asking for here. In 2017, the EDC was voted as a standing committee because we wanted to, it was recognized that we needed to do more economic development. Also, when comparing ourselves to other towns, local towns, we really were not doing nearly as much outreach in this area. And so the economic development really needed to take place to really try to increase the commercial taxes to alleviate some of the residential burden. And as we have already talked about, the EDC coordinator is at a 19.5 hours per week. Been struggling to really get a lot of traction, although we have had some accomplishments along the way. Also did want to mention, since the pandemic in 2020, we've had a steady erosion of the participation of the commercial tax when compared to the residential taxes. And I encourage you, if you didn't pick up a handout, there's a handout that you can grab. Just has a lot of facts on just the EDC committee history, what we're trying to work on. Lost my slide there.
In the back, do we have?
Great, thank you. I'll just finish this one up. We've had a budget, if you add it all up, for the last 9 years, $357,000, and we've been significantly under budget, so we're a net positive of $70,000. And additionally, some of the things that we've done to generate revenue is pursue EDC grant awards for the amount of $323,500, and then also we implemented a meal tax a couple years ago, and that's generated $244,000. Next slide, please. And then just as far as key accomplishments, some of the things that we do, go to broker breakfasts. We've advocated for the meal tax, established an economic knowledge center, created the Shop Local Business Directory. There was a lot of effort around the downtown initiative. There was an Urban Land Institute study to direct us on which were the most appropriate things to do there. Helped update the zoning of the downtown district. Granted grant funded for the wastewater action plan. There's a permitting guide for businesses and residents. We've been participating in the state one-stop grant program, and that's really all about Route 9, improving the zoning there. And we've had the business, nonprofit, and community guide, second edition, and aspirations for Route 9. And we had a grant-funded wastewater feasibility. So the impediments and issues, the real things that we're working on is to, we've all heard about this we have limited wastewater capacity in town. And we have single-use zoning for particular parcels, and that needs to improve if we're going to really attract businesses. We also have our current zoning bylaws that are not supporting the master plan goals, so those bylaws need to be looked at and changed. And you know, the big thing here, what we're talking about, is lack of dedicated staff, you know, really to pursue these funding opportunities to really help the town in this area. You know, it's been a struggle over the years. We've gone through a lot of EDC coordinators. I think there's been 5.
Sorry, I got to ask you to wrap it up, please.
Okay, sure. There's been 5, and we really want to continue the good work. There's a lot more that we can do. You know, it really comes down to just supporting our commercial development and really helping out as far as the reducing the residential tax implications.
All right, thank you. Right over here.
Matt Probst, 31 Woodland Road. Makes sense to me. Having a full-time person brings consistency, and it sounds to me like this would be a positive ROI for the town, and I think we definitely need better economic development down, so I urge everybody to vote yes for this.
All right, thank you.
Hi, Julie Connolly, 26 Granuel Road. I was a member of the Economic Development Committee, the original Economic Development Committee, for 10 years until just last year. I just have 2 quick points. One, the full-time economic coordinator position will provide a good return on investment, as you saw on the first slide. For this small amount, we've been able to bring in hundreds of thousands of dollars in grants over the years, which have funded various projects here at the town and made us not have to dip into our residents' pockets to fund these projects that we need. The second point is that we have a lot of big projects coming up that we will need to do in order to balance the commercial tax base with the residential tax base. It's something we're all concerned about, but the only way to actually keep and retain businesses on Route 9 is going to be to make some big changes as far as zoning and infrastructure. We've seen a lot of examples over the past recent years of businesses not being able to stay in town, not being able to find space in town, or being really hindered due to antiquated zoning laws. All of these changes are going to take a lot of collaboration between the various boards and committees, between the EDC and the Planning Board and the Select Board. It's going to take a lot of collaboration with the state, with various different departments. So we really do need this full-time economic development coordinator position, and I think it would be even bigger return on investment to make it a full-time spot. So thank you.
All right, thank you. Seeing no further comment or question, this requires a majority vote. All those in favor of Article 14, please raise your hands. All opposed?
Mr. Moderator, we asked for a number. The salary.
I think they said they don't have it tonight.
No. Mr. Dennington has it.
So it's $61,921.
All right. That's not going to interrupt the vote that I just saw. That motion carries. We have the number. Article 15, Ms. Landry. Time for the debate.
Mr. Moderator, I move the town vote to appropriate $2,127,960 to be raised by borrowing, to be expended with the approval of the Select Board, to pay additional costs of remediating pollution at the Breakneck Hill dump site as required by an administrator consent order between the town and the Department of Environmental Protection, including the payment of all costs incidental and related thereto.
Receives a second. Comment or question on, well, Ms. Landry, go ahead on Article 15.
With your permission, I'd like Melissa Danza to speak to this.
I didn't hear the end of that.
Oh, with your permission, I'd like Melissa Danza to speak to this.
Can you tell us who that is and explain to the folks why she would be speaking?
I think she can do that herself.
No, Ms. Landry. Who?
She's the head of she's our Department of Conservation head.
All right, do I have the consent of the hall?
I'm sorry. She's in charge of, she's the head of conservation in Southborough.
Do I have the consent of the hall? Yes, hands, yes. Go right ahead, ma'am.
Melissa Danza, a conservation agent, so I work for the Conservation Commission, who has the care and control of the property at Breakneck Hill Conservation Land. So previously in March 2023, we were here asking for a previous amount very similar to this, and we've come back again for this additional almost $2.2 million. Essentially, as we've begun the remediation of solid waste cleanup in a 1 acre portion of Breakneck Hill, we found that there is a surplus of asbestos-containing materials, mostly related to construction materials such as asphalt roofing shingles and cement board. So this area was historically used by the former farmer, Ray Davis, and surrounding other neighbors as a little bit of a trash pit. So a lot of construction materials have been buried, and since this material has been underground for about 60 years, as we've begun to excavate as required by DEP under the solid waste regulations, there's been a additional amount of asbestos, which has a lot higher cost for disposal, as there's limited facilities that will take it. So essentially, the remaining 2/3 of the dump, what we're calling the farm dump, does need to be dug out and essentially hauled out to an accepting waste facility. The cost for that disposal is a lot higher than anticipated because of the containment of asbestos-containing materials, so that's why the cost is as it is. We do have a significant amount of money left from that initial 2.2, so the full total comes to about 4.4, so we've only spent under $500,000 from the original approval, and we've tried to limit costs by doing additional test pitting to see if there are additional areas that we could clear out, from this dig and haul project to limited avail, but we did do as much as necessary to limit costs by separating out solid waste from soil as best we could in terms with the current DEP regulations.
All right. I'm sorry, were you?
No, and just, this project is, I think as reiterated, under administrative consent order by the state DEP, so it is mandated that we do have to complete this work. They've been gracious to grant us an extension because we did have these extenuating circumstances with asbestos, so we did just get a 6-month extension, so that brings us out to March, as it would have expired September 28th.
All right, thank you. Comment or question over here? All right, seeing none, this is a borrowing article, so we are going to raise this money by borrowing it, therefore requires a comment or question on the motion on the floor?
Yes, Will Warren, 6 Sunrise Drive. I was just curious, the number that you quoted, will that be a complete cost, including the restoration?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comment or question? Requires a 2/3 vote. All those in favor of Article 15, please raise your hands. All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Yes, I declare a 2/3 majority. Article 16, Ms. Cook.
I move the town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $76,733 to add a second lieutenant position to the Southborough Police Department. Said funds to cover the cost of salary and benefits for the position beginning January 1st, 2025.
Does it receive a second? All right, Ms. Cook.
I also ask for the permission of the hall to allow Chief Newell, Chief Ryan Newell, our police chief, to speak in just a moment. He does not live in Southborough, so we need the hall's permission.
Well, are you going to talk first?
Yes.
All right, why don't you go first?
So Chief Newell requested that a second lieutenant be added for fiscal year '25. He also asked to add 4 new dispatchers and a patrol officer. Due to the significant increase in headcount, the Select Board and the Advisory Committee agreed that it was time to get an independent determination of what the Southborough Public Safety Department org chart should look like in 2024. The last time this was done was about 25 years ago. So instead of proposing to add any of these new positions in the original fiscal year '25 budget, the Select Board sponsored an article at the 2024 annual town meeting that funded the public safety study, which you passed. That study is now complete. Neither the Select Board nor the Advisory Committee have discussed the study in its entirety. That will happen in the next couple of months. However, the study made it very clear that we do need the second lieutenant position that Chief Newell asked for to be added immediately. Now I'm asking for the permission of the hall to allow Chief Newell to speak.
So do the folks, do you assent to Chief Newell grabbing the mic here on this topic? Just show of hands. All right, go right ahead, sir.
Let's tilt that up. Okay, thank you, Kathy, and thank you all for your time and consideration for Article 16. I'm requesting your support for this article, which is the request to add a second lieutenant to the command staff of the Southborough Police Department. At this time, I would ask you to take out the fact sheet that we have put together, if you still have it, that was outside the auditorium. The original request for the second lieutenant came during the FY25 budget review process last year. I'd approached both the Select Board and the Advisory Committee and expressed our need for this additional administrative position due to the added managerial requirements that were accumulating through, among other things, state legislative requirements through post, the implementation and the maintenance of the department's body-worn camera program, the standards and record-keeping required through Massachusetts accreditation program, and a host of other managerial duties and responsibilities that were becoming extremely difficult to maintain, manage, and supervise through our one lieutenant. During the budget review process with the town, it was suggested and eventually voted on to conduct a staffing study in order to develop a full understanding of the staffing needs of the Southborough Police Department. This staffing study was conducted through a third-party vendor called MRI, and within the study, they analyzed the department's need for a second lieutenant. In the final report, they concluded that the tasks and responsibilities are overwhelming for one lieutenant and recognized that the management and administration of a police agency involves significant planning, organizing, oversight, and directing of staff while ensuring accountability of the organization to the community of Southborough. The study also recognized an immediate need to fill this second administrative position. The intention of this addition is to reorganize the department's command structure to include an administrative lieutenant and an operations lieutenant, with the goal of balancing the current lieutenant's workload and freeing up any secondary tasks placed on our patrol sergeants. This will allow them more time to be on the road supervising a very young department. If you would please take a look at the handout, you will see some of the current lieutenant responsibilities separated out into the planned positions as administrative lieutenant and operations lieutenant. Some of these responsibilities and tasks include supervising the detective division, managing and scheduling all department training, supervising the body-worn camera program, crisis management and planning coordinator, accreditation manager, and a liaison to various law enforcement organizations. Historically, many departments add additional command staff positions when they take on accreditation or the body-worn camera program alone, but the Southborough Police did not add these additional staff at the time of implementation. On the back of the fact sheet, you will see that Southborough is one of the only police departments in the area and within comparable communities that has only one police administrator besides the chief. Those departments that have only one lieutenant have a deputy chief to offset the administrative duties of their department. The addition of a second lieutenant will give the department more ability to supervise, alleviate the workload of the current lieutenant, chief, and sergeants, and would assist with accountability in the professional operation of the department. Article 16 has the full support of the Select Board, Advisory Committee, and we just need the support from all of you. Thank you.
All right. Comment or question about Article 16? Yes.
Question through the moderator. First of all, I'm in full support of this, and I know the hard work the Board of Selectmen.
Let me just, for the record, let me just have you give your name and town.
Bonnie Faniff, 179 Middle
Thank
Road.
you.
It was a request of the chief last year. It was delayed. I appreciate that. Again, this is just till June 30th of 2025. And I don't want to put the chief in a position where his budget is increased next year and we're questioning why. So what is the total number for this position?
So, Chief, do you have that?
When it becomes like
Yes.
official, about 122.
Okay. I suggest we support this, knowing that there will be an increase.
All right. Other comment, question? Seeing none, this requires a majority vote. All in favor of the motion on Article 16, please raise your hands. All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you all very much.
Article 17. Mr. Stivers.
Thank you. Sam Stivers, 7 Presidential Drive, member of the Select Board. I move the article as printed in the warrant.
So receive a second? Second. All right, Mr. Stivers.
As most of you know, we've been working, Select Board's been working with the moderator and town clerk to find ways to increase participation in town meeting. And one of the things that we've been looking at is the date. Current bylaw requires a fairly specific date for this town meeting. This article gives us more flexibility to find dates that can balance out a number of competing interests here in terms of not only our internal financial process schedules between assessors and other financial related departments in town, as well as state revenue departments, as well as things like school schedules, athletic contests from the schools, et cetera. So we're asking for some more flexibility in terms of setting these dates, and actually we're going to work to soon select the date for the upcoming spring town meeting. But the flexibility, again, gives us opportunity to continue to do things like we conducted a survey recently for the prior town meeting. That was very helpful, and I think we expect to do similar kinds of things to figure out what people can support and encourage more participation. So that's the purpose of this. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Comment or question? Yes?
Beth Rosenblum, 5 Strawberry Hill Road. Sam, how much notice would people have from year to year so that they could plan their own lives?
Our current plan is, I think this is on the agenda for the next couple of weeks here, is that correct? So
Sam,
October 8th,
Sam, make sure you're right up there.
sorry. The topic is on the Select Board agenda for October 8th, so we will select a date, October 8th, so that will give us 6 months roughly of advance notice.
I don't see it in your thank you for the answer. I don't see it in the article, but are you statutorily or otherwise compelled to give a certain amount of time? Or would the notice period also vary at the whim of the Board of Selectmen?
I don't know if we're compelled to give a particular amount of notice. Town council would probably. I think we believe that it's important to give substantial notice here, so, because we want people to participate.
I need guarantees, Sam.
I think the legal...
There are no guarantees in life, Betsy.
I'm a very busy woman, and I take town meeting very seriously.
So,
No, I am actually serious. I think it's really important that we have some predictability. And if you tell me you'll give me 6 months' notice, that's great. But
Hey, town council's ready to answer your question.
great. Thank
right.
you, Mr. Moderator.
so there's not a specific period of time within which to choose that date. There are obviously posting requirements for when you post the warrant for the annual town meeting is 7 days. From a practical perspective, calling a town meeting requires a lot of moving pieces, including internal setting of budgets, getting the room, planning ahead. So it is normally something that's at least 4 months ahead of time, but the statute doesn't require a specific time. The statute does require that you state in your bylaws when you will have town meeting, and it can be arranged, but the statute also allows you some flexibility to change those dates as you see fit, so.
Thank you, sir. Sam, in the deliberations of this, was there any consideration to including language? I know when I've worked on other bylaws in town, but no later than X amount of time before. Was that ever discussed?
For notice, for advance notice?
Yeah. Did it cross your minds that we might need to know when we're going to know?
I don't recall specific conversation on that particular topic, but I think that I believe that it's important to give substantial notice there, and I think my fellow select board members believe that as well. So we're trying to get participation, and you don't get that by a short notice. So
would you all be willing to throw something in there comma, but in no event later than 4 months before town meeting?
Ms. Rosenblum, I think it's incumbent on you to make a motion if you want to make it.
No, I think it's incumbent on the proponents to make a reasonable proposal
I think
that's
he's done that.
acceptable to the hall.
You can vote it down. You can vote it down.
I'm trying to, I'm not going to propose something to correct what I think is a deficiency in the proposal. I think the select board is perfectly competent to express their own will. They've done so for the last, 2 evenings. So I'm just wondering if they considered it, if they would be willing to consider it. I'm not willing to consider it. I'll vote on the motion as presented. Thank you.
All right. Same microphone, please.
Sarah Whiteman, 156 Parkerville. As one of the people in the room who has 2 kids and a really hard time coming to town meeting, my husband was able to represent us briefly last night. I am here this evening. I'm wondering if, along with the generous lead time, we can also become in the habit of, and this maybe is a motion, but I'm not that forward thinking, can we get in the habit of scheduling a potential second time so that we know, so we're not like, oh, second night in a row, we're out really late, I'm not home with my kids, is there, when you have a party, you have a rain date, when you have a town meeting, you have a potential second date. Is that a possibility, or does that need to be a motion?
That is usually included in terms of when the meeting is scheduled. So it's meeting is scheduled for a particular date, and then there's a follow-up, 1 or more follow-up dates if the meeting runs long. So that's part of the normal scheduling process, an announcement.
That is something that is scheduled and announced along with the meeting?
Yes.
Okay. And is it taken into account the availability of all of the voting members of households, or people with small children? I mean,
Well,
you can see the difference between last night and tonight's attendance. I'm just wondering.
Yes. We've actually worked hard in terms of alternate scheduling. We actually historically have had meetings on weeknights. We've gotten a lot of feedback that says that's a tough time for folks with kids.
And it continues to happen?
Yes. And so we've actually tried Saturdays, and we got a lot of feedback from parents of kids in athletic programs on Saturdays to say, that doesn't work for us, go back to the weeknights. We actually did a survey, and I think the number was like 60-40 or a little more preference for the weeknights. So that's why we're here on this one and for annual town meeting. So we continue to look at that, and that's one of the goals of this article, is to give us some flexibility to continue to study that and figure out what is the best option to get participation.
Okay. Also, just want to add that it's not necessarily just parents that need
Sure.
accommodations as well, but those with disabilities, neurodiversities, time constraints, economic status. Thank you.
Sure.
All right, thank you. We're going to go right down here.
So Betsy, where are you? I'm Kathy Cook, Chair Select Board. So the current bylaw is also not specific. It says we will have the annual town meeting no later than the last Saturday in March. Before that, there was also flexibility as far as when we had it. We'd have it, around the middle of March, but you got to worry about school vacation week, you got to worry about Easter, you got to worry about Passover. So lots of things that are moving parts here. Next year, we are going to most likely have a special town meeting to vote on replacing Neary School. So we need to make sure that we time this in a way that it makes sense, having an annual and a special with enough distance that it makes sense to everyone. So we're just looking for flexibility, but I promise you we hear you. We will set this, as long as this group is together, we will set it early. And so we are going to set it on October 8th as far as both of those. We're going to set the special for Neary, and we're going to set the annual town meeting next Tuesday. But we do hear you. We need the to determine when it is too for our purposes, for budget, whatever. So we will absolutely make sure there's plenty of notice to do that. And then to the person who was up at the microphone, the main difference, you're seeing many less people here tonight, and last night was because of what we talked about last night. The MBTA article is what drove that turnout last night, so you shouldn't necessarily determine that because it went on the second night that's why there's so few people here. It was because of the nature of the Article 8 last night that drove that big turnout. I wish we could do that every night.
All right, thank you. Yes. Yes.
Jessica Devine, 1 Pinecone Lane. So the current town code does it say what day of the week we're supposed to have town meeting?
It does not.
Okay, so when we were trying to move to Saturdays, Saturday is just, that wasn't required for it to be on a Saturday?
Correct.
It was not required.
No,
We were
it is,
Was?
it is.
Excuse me. Okay, Saturday, okay, sorry. We-
So currently it is required the town meeting should be on a Saturday. So this
Yes.
change would make it so it's no longer required
Yes.
to be on a Saturday?
Yes.
That's correct.
Okay,
So it gives
so I
it-
want to speak in favor of it staying on a Saturday. I got here tonight at like 8:45, and that's because I had parental commitments, and my husband's traveling. So weeknights are really tough, and I understand that a lot of people were here last night for a certain article, and they all left. But a lot of people also came because of that, and they'll come if we make it easier to come. Like, a lot of people rushed out because they had to get home to their kids. So, or their kids were here and they were literally falling asleep on the floor in the cafeteria. I watched them, I was in there. So that's not ideal. You know, I know of people who don't like driving at night that aren't here because of that. So it would be a lot more accessible, and I know that we were proposing of this having on the Saturday town meeting. It was kind of like right before COVID, and then we didn't really get to like have a real town meeting the way a bunch of us who were like parents that were envisioning it happening, with like making it a community event and having food trucks there so we could have a break during the town meeting and everybody could gather together and hang out outside. Like, we need more of that, not less of that. Like, more community building, more being together. And that's kind of what we were envisioning for a Saturday town meeting, is that it would be more of a draw and more people would be able to go. And if it is between, and I know you did that survey, but very few people replied to it. I remember reading the stats about it. It was like, I think it was like under 200 people replied or something, or maybe that was a different survey. But it wasn't a large percentage of our town of 10,000. So I would really like it to stay on Saturdays. Thanks.
And we hear you, and we've continued to work on that, which we will continue to do.
All right, now we're right down here.
Matt Probst, 31 Woodland Road. I appreciate the Select Board's interest in making this more flexible, and the goal is more inclusion and finding opportunities for more people to attend. And I'm also the chair of the Municipal Technology Committee and supporting the Select Board on surveys and so forth. And one of our goals is to do more outreach and get ideas like this that would potentially draw more people. And nothing in this article precludes us from doing, the way it's written, precludes us from doing it on Saturday. But as already mentioned, I think there will probably be follow-up surveys to figure out what is the best time. Is Saturday the best time? Is a weekday the best time? And our goal is to find out what is the best time to increase participation. And but I urge everybody to vote yes on this to give the Select Board the flexibility they need to maximize inclusion. Thank you.
Hi, yes, my name is Mary Tinty. I live at 2 General Henry Knox Road, and I am going to support this, and I wanted to thank the Select Board because I was one of 2 or 3 people that came and spoke at the Select Board meeting directly after the last annual meeting. Is that right? Yes, in this spring. And vocalized many concerns about lack of attendance, only one person in my household being able to come here, childcare, you name it, went down the list. And I just want to say, I'm really grateful to how receptive the Select Board was in hearing those concerns, in mirroring them and coming up with a list of suggested options to try, one of which we saw in place. It may still be in place tonight, I'm not sure, but we certainly saw it in full effect yesterday with the noisy room, in which people could go and vote from that room and fully participate without having to come back and forth. So I just wanted to thank them and let everyone who is in the room or might be listening know that I was heard. I felt heard, and I felt like there were some really cool results that happened. And so I encouraged the open dialogue. I wanted to say thank you. And there are absolutely no perfect solutions here. And if we as community citizens can really talk this up with our friends and neighbors, that's going to go a long way, because I don't think any amount of scheduling is going to get people here. There's always going to be a faction of people who is too busy or frankly just doesn't want to come. And so if we can, that's also on us to talk it up, excuse me. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you, and we will continue to listen. And just to be fair, Select Board does the date. A lot of the administrative details, the meeting is the moderator's meeting. The town clerk provides support for this meeting, so they're really focused on the experience once we set the meeting date. So they do a great job of that, and I hope they'll continue to work with us as they've done in the past on that. Thank you.
All right, right here.
Jacqueline Cotreau, 8 Mitchell Street. I support it. I just want to say thank you. Thank you, Matt, Jessica, everybody. From an alternative view, I have 3 kids. I'm not from here. I don't have family here. 10 years ago, we had the room packed with people that are my generation, that have kids. It was hard to get to from work, but they used to come. I'm not saying that's not a possibility. I'm open to Saturdays, but I know that a ton of my friends could not attend when it was on a Saturday, and issues are very important to me. I couldn't get childcare. I have 3 kids. I need to get to 3 sporting events. Weeknights tend to be a little bit easier, so I just urge us to offer the option as extended to people and not make it a mandatory. That's all. Thank you.
All right. I had somebody down here. Sir, are you going to another mic, or you? Okay. Right here, please.
Jim Caleri, 51 Central Street. I do support the article. There's no doubt about that. But my message is for you people out here. We've tried Saturdays. And the same thing, kids, well, our kids are in games, though. You can't do Saturdays. We've changed nights during the week. Well, I got to deal with my kids. My grandparents made town meeting. They had children. My parents had 5 children. My father always made town meeting. My child was born, I always made town meeting. I worked shifts. I ran a business on the side. I made town meeting. I think when you set the date, you give them plenty of notice, no matter what day you pick in the 365 days a year, there's going to be people that don't like it. Last night, you had a very good crowd because you had a major decision that had to be made within the town that spurred interest. I will guarantee this town that we have the special town meeting for the school. You probably need 3 rooms. Schools always have brought in the large crowd because people care about that, the children and so on and so forth. But if you look at the people that are sitting here tonight, you usually see these people every year at town meeting. Unless there's something major and controversial or something involving schools and education or a major zoning thing that people think are going to devaluate their property, they will not take the time to be here. And as I go to homes, as most of you know, I'm your wire inspector for the town. I'm in homes and people talk about, you went to town meeting, what is it about? And I ask why they don't go, well, I don't have time. And I figure they think the people sitting at the board run the town, they're not unhappy, so why do I need to bother and go make a mistake and say something? So this is the thing, no matter what we tried. Now last night I was over in the cafeteria part, and there were 4 little kids. There wasn't a big crowd of people with children. It was kind of nice sitting over there. I enjoyed it because I get to vote and listen what's going on, but see the kids doing the different things. But I think if you can give us a good notice, give the whole town a good notice and say, this is the date we chose, that's it. People with children, like I had to find a way to take care of that child. My wife and I would also go over the warrant and look over how I would vote, or if she wanted to go, she would vote for the family. And that's how we did it. And giving a good notice, if there was something that I thought important, I would make the arrangements, whether getting shifts to cover me at National Grid, where I work full-time rotating shifts, to cover me so I could be here for the town meeting. That's the reality of our lives, and that's the way it is. I think people need to understand that. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Article 17 requires a majority vote. All those in favor, please raise your hands. All opposed? All right, that motion passes. And finally, we are on to Article 18. Before I recognize Mr. Palmer, I do want to say that the second night on a weeknight of a special town meeting, you all have my personal thanks and admiration. Mr. Palmer.
Hello, thank you. First, I have a question for the town council.
Is it about your?
It is.
Well, let's put it on the floor. Let's have a motion.
A motion
Does it affect whether you're going to make a motion or not?
Oh, a motion to put it to vote?
Yeah, let's start with that.
Okay, I cast a motion to put
So
it to
you
the
move
floor.
you
I
move
move-
Article 18.
I move the article. I move
as
the Article
printed in the
18.
warrant.
Town council, I understand that.
Hold on, Mr. Palmer. Hold on. I'll get you there. No, stay at the mic. You move Article 18.
I haven't left.
You move Article 18 as printed in the warrant.
I move Article 18 as printed in the warrant.
Does it receive a second? All right, what's your question?
I apologize, Mr.
That's all right.
Moderator.
No, don't
Town
apologize.
council, it has reached my ears and many others that, that through this article, you can't require the select board to actually do what's within the article. Is that correct?
So I mean, I can answer that, or Jay, you can answer that. But yeah, no, town meeting is a town legislature. They cannot require the executive, which is the select board, to do anything, right? We could pass bylaws, I mean, you know, there are other ways to do it. But it would, you know, a bylaw requires a vote at the ballot box, and so I don't know what the content, the specific contents of your motion are, but town meeting in general does not have the ability to direct the select board.
Then the question really becomes, the select board sitting right there, 5 members, if this body voted for it, would you carry out what is in it?
All right, I'm going to have town council speak to that.
Even if the select board were so inclined to support establishing a recall bylaw as you've described it, and I haven't seen the language of the recall bylaw, they don't adopt bylaws. At best, the select board could present a bylaw to this body, or you could have presented a bylaw to this body that allows for recall of town officials. But this body cannot require the select board to establish a bylaw at all. It just is not a power of this body. So this article is really just seeking a resolution of this body as to their support of the notion of a recall bylaw, although there's no recall bylaw presented in it. So that's, at best, that's what this article does. It has no legal binding effect, nor could it, on this body or the select board.
I understand that. I wanted the select board to answer the question.
Well,
if this body had so voted for this, you had all listed that you would vote against this. But if this body voted for it and it was within your power to do so, would you do it?
Field that if they want to. If the select board wants to take that, I'll recognize them.
Select Board has not discussed this at all. We just voted to not support the article because we knew that the article was not presented correctly. So we have not discussed this in a meeting at all.
You could all vote individually to your own opinion as to whether you would
Yeah,
support.
we haven't called a meeting tonight, so we're in no
Yeah,
position to discuss.
this is town meeting, it's not a select board meeting.
No, it's not. But you can ask advisory, and they stand up and give their own opinions, don't they?
Advisory can give their position on this, sure.
And the select board members stand up at mics and give their opinions, the same as all the rest of us. So asking them to give their opinions is really no different than asking them to stand at a mic and say yes or no.
Does the hall want to hear the individual opinions of select board and advisory on this? Okay.
I move the question, Mr. Moderator.
Well, go to a mic.
Mr. Moderator, I move the question.
All right. You know, there's nobody else at a microphone, so we're at that point anyway. So we will dispense with a vote on that. We won't recognize that motion, but we're ready to vote on Article 18. It requires a majority vote. All those in favor, please raise your hands. All opposed. Article fails. That concludes the review of the warrant for this special town meeting. Do I have a motion to dissolve the special town meeting of 2025? Do I have a second? All in favor? All right, we are adjourned. Thank you very much.